There is a very specific type of person who today lives in a psychological no man's land, caught between two eras. You remember the tactile, mechanical click of a VHS tape and the silent ritual of rewinding it before the return. You remember the physical weight of a rotary phone and the way it anchored your conversations to a single spot. But you also remember the exact flickering moment when the world around you suddenly and permanently shifted to digital. Spending entire nights waiting for a single MP3 to download while you were still trying to figure out who you were. If you were born between the mid-70s and mid-80s, you are part of a rare phenomenon sociologists are still studying. For decades, researchers have been unsure how to categorize you, as you don't fit into the standard generational boxes. You aren't quite the cynical Gen Xer who grew up entirely in the analog dark before the glow of the screen. And you aren't the digital native millennial who never had to imagine a world without constant, high-speed Wi-Fi. You are a Xennial, a microgeneration born exactly in the seam where two vastly different human histories were stitched together. You were the last to experience a childhood where your growth wasn't archived as a permanent, searchable digital file. Before the internet, that embarrassing thing you said at a party was just a fleeting, awkward moment in time. Without screenshots or digital footprints, the clumsiness of youth simply faded away like mist in the morning air. It lived only in a few fading memories before dissolving into something softer, as the human brain was designed to do. Our brains were actually built for this specific process, to release the digital clutter and keep the emotional meaning. Because of this, your childhood could remain a personal story you told, shaped by your own evolving perspective. You weren't trapped inside a permanent digital record of every mistake you made when you were 14 years old.
But just as you reached adulthood, the very foundation of how we communicate and live began to move. Your brain was still developing, perfectly primed to learn and adapt to the complex new systems being born. Practically overnight, the analog reality you knew was replaced by a high-speed landscape of glowing code and data. You hit the entire digital revolution right inside that critical window of your most important cognitive and social growth. Suddenly, there was broadband, social media, and the heavy, constant demand for 24/7 connectivity and presence. You became the only group in history to hold the memory of both versions of human reality in your hands. You still know the profound, quiet peace of being genuinely unreachable, lost in the silence of a long afternoon. Yet you can navigate a dozen complex messaging platforms with the effortless speed of someone born into the web. You speak digital with total fluency, but you must always remember that it is technically your second language. Deep down, your mother tongue, the language of your earliest years, will always be the language of quiet reflection. However, this unique ability to dual process the modern world comes with a hidden and heavy psychological cost. In every office, every boardroom, and every family, you've been quietly cast in a very specific, taxing role. You have become the natural translator, the human bridge between two clashing and misunderstood ways of living. You translate for the older generation, who still deeply value slow, analog processes and traditional, rigid hierarchy. And you translate for the younger ones, who demand instant results, digital speed, and total personal autonomy. You are the one who constantly absorbs the friction, acting as the invisible shock absorber for everyone else. You smooth things over so often that you've likely forgotten how much internal effort and energy it actually takes. Psychologists call this emotional labor, the heavy, exhausting lifting required to keep different worlds connected. It leaves you with a very specific kind of fatigue, a deep, quiet tiredness that you can't quite locate or name. It's the sheer weight of holding two vastly different versions of reality together for more than 20 years. You've been doing it so habitually that it has started to feel like just how things are in the world. You carry the weight of both eras without ever being given the permission to finally put them down and rest. Beneath that labor, there is a lingering mark left by what economists call the permanent scarring effect. You entered the adult job market just as the dot-com bubble burst, turning early promises into total nothingness. Just as you finally found your footing, the 2008 crash pulled the floor out from under your life again. These repeated hits created a deep muscle memory of caution that still quietly guides your adult decisions today. It's why your emergency fund never feels quite safe enough, no matter how much you've managed to save. It's why you hesitate before committing to something permanent, even when everything in your life looks fine. That's not just simple anxiety. It's your body remembering a time when the ground beneath you wasn't solid. You didn't choose to be this adaptable or resilient. The changing world simply gave you no other choice. You stood on the shoreline and watched one version of human life slowly sink away into the past. Then you turned around and watched a brand new, glowing, digital sun rise over every aspect of your existence. Most people live their entire lives within a single, consistent version of human history and social rules. But you were born in the seam, the exact stitch that holds two completely different eras of humanity together. You learned, through experience, that your identity isn't defined by the world you happened to start in. While the ground keeps shifting for everyone else, you've already practiced the fall many times before. You know how to land on your feet because you've had to do it since the moment you entered adulthood. You move into the future without ever losing the fundamental memory of where you actually began. You carry a bridge inside you, built from the psychological materials of two very different centuries. That kind of quiet internal strength isn't something you can learn from a textbook or a viral video. It is a strength that can only be forged by actually living through the transition and coming out whole. Think back to that VHS tape one last time. It's a relic of a silent, slower world that is gone. The person who knew how to rewind it and then mastered the entire internet just a few years later. They didn't do it to be special or superior. They did it because they had to survive a global change. You evolved because the environment demanded it, and you did it without any grand announcement or drama. You transitioned from analog to digital without ever losing the core soul of who you were before the screens. You can still find peace in the quiet, even while the digital storm of the modern world rages around you. You are the guardian of the before, living successfully and fluently in the high-tech after. That balance is incredibly rare, and it is far more valuable than you probably realize in your daily life. One world ended slowly and quietly while you were busy growing up and trying to find your way. And from those old parts, you helped build the very foundations of the digital world we have today. You are the seam, the living, breathing connection between what we were and what we have now become. You are the generation that remembers the silence, and that silence is your greatest hidden power.
If this journey through the seam of our history hit home for you, please subscribe to the channel. I would genuinely appreciate your support as we continue to explore the hidden psychology of our lives together. Thank you for being here and for being part of the bridge that connects our past to our future.